Welcome to Health 2660. Here we don't just talk about health, we tell the stories that heal. Now please listen to the story. Walter, a man whose life had been as structured and dependable as the gymnasium he once commanded, stood at the precipice of his 77th year. Retirement, which had initially promised a serene landscape of leisurely mornings and unhurried days, had instead revealed a terrain dotted with the familiar aches and complaints of aging. Walter had always prided himself on his robust health. As a physical education teacher for over 4 decades, he'd instilled in countless students the importance of movement and mindful living. He practiced what he preached, maintaining a disciplined routine of daily walks, albeit shorter now, and a diet that he considered impeccably healthy. This self-imposed nutritional regimen, however, was where the first cracks in his foundation began to appear. For years, Walter had adhered to a diet rich in what he perceived as health-boosting foods: homemade pickled vegetables, a vibrant mix of cucumbers, carrots, and onions submerged in a salty, vinegary brine, raw mushroom salads, a medley of earthy flavors and textures, and stuffed bell peppers, colorful vessels filled with rice-ground turkey and a blend of spices. He believed he was nourishing his body with vital nutrients, arming himself against the inevitable decline that came with age. Yet despite his efforts, Walter found himself increasingly plagued by persistent joint pain, a creeping fatigue that seemed to cling to him like a stubborn shadow, and a stiffness that made each morning a battle against his own body. He chalked it up to the simple, unavoidable truth of growing old, accepting these ailments as the price one paid for the privilege of longevity. His world, once expansive and filled with the boundless energy of youth, began to shrink, confined by the limitations of his aging frame. The long walks he once relished became shorter, more labored. The joy he found in tending to his small garden diminished as bending and kneeling became increasingly difficult. Even the simple act of rising from his favorite armchair required a moment of agonizing deliberation. Then one crisp autumn afternoon, a familiar face appeared at Walter's doorstep, a face that stirred memories of whistles, blown laps run, and lessons learned. It was Sarah, a former student of Walter's, now a registered nutritionist, with a thriving practice dedicated to helping people optimize their health through personalized dietary plans. Sarah had always been a bright and inquisitive student, a natural athlete with a thirst for knowledge. Walter remembered her fondly, a young woman with a fierce determination and an unwavering commitment to excellence. After a warm exchange of pleasantries and reminiscing about their shared history at the high school, Sarah gently steered the conversation toward Walter's well-being. She noticed the subtle signs of his discomfort, the slight grimace as he shifted in his chair, the stiffness in his gait as he walked her from the door to the living room. Concerned, she inquired about his health and his daily routine. Walter, ever the stoic, initially brushed off her concerns, attributing his aches and pains to the natural wear and tear of age. But Sarah, with her gentle persistence and her genuine care for her former teacher, managed to coax him into a more detailed discussion of his diet. He proudly recounted his meticulous adherence to his self-proclaimed healthy eating plan, describing his love for pickled vegetables, raw mushroom salads, and stuffed bell peppers with the enthusiasm of a chef presenting his signature dish. Sarah listened intently, her brow furrowing slightly as she processed the information. She knew that Walter's intentions were good, that he genuinely believed he was nourishing his body with wholesome foods. However, her expertise in nutrition told her a different story. With the utmost tact and sensitivity, Sarah began to explain to Walter that some of the foods he considered healthy might actually be contributing to his inflammation and exacerbating his joint pain. She explained that as the body ages, its digestive system becomes less efficient, and certain foods that were once easily tolerated can become problematic. She spoke specifically about the potential issues with nightshades, a family of plants that includes bell peppers, tomatoes, eggplants, and potatoes. While nightshades are generally considered nutritious, they contain compounds called alkaloids that can trigger inflammation in some individuals, particularly those with sensitivities or autoimmune conditions. She also addressed the high sodium content of pickled vegetables, which can contribute to fluid retention and exacerbate joint pain. And finally, she discussed the potential for raw mushrooms to be difficult to digest, especially for seniors with compromised digestive systems. Walter listened to Sarah's explanation with a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. He had always trusted his own judgment when it came to his health, and he was reluctant to believe that the foods he had been consuming for years were actually harming him. However, he also respected Sarah's expertise and recognized the genuine concern in her voice. He knew that she wouldn't be sharing this information with him if she didn't truly believe it was in his best interest. After a lengthy discussion, Sarah proposed a 3-week experiment. She suggested that Walter temporarily eliminate pickled vegetables, bell peppers, and raw mushrooms from his diet and replace them with other nutrient-rich foods known for their anti-inflammatory properties. She recommended cooked garlic, steamed broccolini, and watercress, explaining that these foods are packed with antioxidants and compounds that can help reduce inflammation and support joint health. Walter was hesitant at first. The thought of giving up his beloved pickled vegetables and mushroom salads was unsettling. He had grown accustomed to their flavors and textures, and he wasn't sure he could imagine his meals without them. But Sarah's gentle encouragement and her promise to provide him with delicious and satisfying alternatives eventually convinced him to give it a try. He saw it as a challenge, a new experiment in his life, and he was curious to see if it would actually make a difference. With a mix of apprehension and anticipation, Walter agreed to embark on Sarah's 3-week dietary experiment. He cleared his refrigerator of the offending foods, replacing them with the recommended alternatives. He learned new recipes, experimented with different cooking methods, and discovered a newfound appreciation for the flavors of cooked garlic steamed broccolini and watercress. To his surprise, the results were subtle but profound. In the first week, he noticed a slight improvement in his digestion. The bloating and discomfort he had often experienced after meals began to subside, replaced by a feeling of lightness and ease. In the second week, he started waking up with less stiffness. The familiar aches and pains that had plagued his mornings began to diminish, allowing him to rise from bed with greater ease and mobility. And in the third week, he realized he could walk farther without experiencing the sharp, debilitating joint pain that had previously limited his activity. He was able to stroll through his garden, tend to his plants, and enjoy the beauty of nature without the constant reminder of his aging body. Walter was astonished. He had expected the experiment to be a futile exercise, a waste of time and effort. He had resigned himself to the belief that his aches and pains were simply an unavoidable consequence of aging. But the results spoke for themselves. He felt better, more energetic, and more mobile than he had in years. He realized that it wasn't just aging that was causing his discomfort. It was also what he was eating. His body had been trying to tell him something for a long time, but he had been too stubborn, too set in his ways to listen. With Sarah's guidance and a willingness to experiment, he had finally unlocked the secret to feeling younger, healthier, and more vibrant. Walter's transformation was more than just physical. It was also mental and emotional. He regained a sense of control over his health and his life. He realized that aging didn't mean giving up, that it didn't mean resigning himself to a life of pain and limitations. It meant listening more carefully to his body, paying attention to its signals, and making informed choices about his diet and lifestyle. He adopted a new mantra: aging doesn't mean giving up control. Sometimes it just means listening more carefully to what your body is trying to say. He continued to incorporate cooked garlic steamed broccolini and watercress into his diet, along with other anti-inflammatory foods. He also made other lifestyle changes, such as practicing gentle stretching exercises, getting regular sunlight exposure, and prioritizing sleep. He rediscovered his passion for gardening, spending hours tending to his plants and enjoying the fresh air. He even started volunteering at a local community center, sharing his newfound knowledge about healthy aging with other seniors. Walter's story became an inspiration to his friends, his family, and his community. He showed them that aging is not a passive process, that it's not something to be feared or dreaded. It's an opportunity to learn to grow and to live life to the fullest, regardless of age. And it all started with a simple conversation with a former student who cared enough to listen and to guide him on a path to better health. Sarah, too, felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had always believed in the power of nutrition to heal and to transform lives, but seeing the profound impact her guidance had on Walter reinforced her commitment to her profession. She continued to refine her practice, staying abreast of the latest research, and developing personalized dietary plans that catered to the unique needs of each individual. She often shared Walter's story with her other clients, using it as an example of how small changes can lead to significant improvements in health and well-being. Walter and Sarah remained close friends, sharing meals, exchanging stories, and supporting each other in their respective endeavors. Their relationship was a testament to the power of mentorship, the importance of listening, and the transformative potential of healthy eating. And as Walter continued to age, he did so with grace, vitality, and a deep appreciation for the wisdom of his own body. Health 2660. Thanks you for listening. We'll see you in the next video. And until then, be kind to yourself.